Hello, my crafting friends. If you love budget-friendly, primitive, and vintage farmhouse home decor DIYs, then come craft with me. I'm Sarah, and welcome to my channel, Primroselaneprims. If you haven't done so already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button and crafting with me again in the future. And let's get right into these DIYs. For this DIY, I'm going to be building a little primitive ladder, and I'm going to be using these paint stir sticks to do it. And I'm going to be using 2 of the 5-gallon ones and then 3 of the 1-gallon ones. Now, these are just ones I got at Lowe's. So I'm going to start by laying out where I want the rungs of my ladder to be. And I originally started off with 2 rungs, and you'll see here in a minute I changed my mind and I wanted to add 3, but it's the same process. So I'm just laying out my rungs where I want them, and I'm taking a pencil and just tracing. That way I can, when I lift these up to glue, I can make sure I get these put back down exactly where I want them. So here's where I decided 2 just wasn't enough. It didn't look right. I just erased those pencil marks, added my 3rd ladder rung, added my pencil marks back, and kept right on going. And I'm attaching these just using hot glue. You could add wood glue as well to these if you wanted, but I'm going to be adding a little reinforcement to these in a little bit, and I didn't find it was necessary. So you can see what it's looking like. Now I want to stain my ladder, so I'm using some Waverly Antique Wax, and I'm just using that to stain my ladder. You could use regular stain, you could even paint it if you wanted to, really however you wanted to do yours, you absolutely could, but I wanted to stain mine. And Waverly Antique Wax is my go-to for staining. I prefer to use it because it's kind of a one-stop shop. I use it for all kinds of things, but it also doesn't have the harsh smell that traditional stains have, which is nice, especially when you're working indoors in the winter. So once my ladder was dry, I'm going to go in with my thicker jute twine here that I get from Walmart. And I'm on the back side, I'm going to glue my twine down, and I'm going to wrap it around the front, kind of in a cross pattern, back around the back, up the other side to make an X. Drop my twine through, wrap it around the ladder rung, and then I'm going to bring it back around and go over it a second time. And just hot glue the back down. This not only makes it look a little prettier, but it also adds that extra security around those rungs there. And that's why I said with just the hot glue, I found it worked just fine once I added the twine around these as well. So I'm going to do this again for you so you can see. So glue it, wrap it around an X, bring it around, wrap it around the ladder rung, back across, wrap it around that ladder rung again on the other side, and bring it across the other way, snip off the excess and glue it down. You see how cute these looks now? The sky's the limit here. Once you get your actual ladder made, you can decorate these however you want to, but this is how I did mine. So I had this little pitberry garland. This is kind of a really dark green and a dark cream with little hints of maroon in it and the stars. And I'm taking it here in this top corner, and I'm just going to wrap it around the top. Adjust my berries, and I'm just going to kind of guide it down to the second rung, and I'm going to use piece of the pitberry stem that broke off. These are wired, so I figured, hey, it broke off. I might as well use this to wire it right onto my ladder. And from there, I'm just going to curve it around to that opposite corner on the bottom rung. Just going to adjust it, work with it until I thought it looked good. And then I'm going to use the actual attached pitberry stems to wrap around the ladder to secure it there on the bottom. These little ladders, you could really decorate these however you wanted. You could do these for different seasons, and with the stuff just being wired on, you can even change them out. You could hang them on your wall, you can sit them on a shelf, put them on maybe your kitchen counter if you wanted to. You could hang them vertically, horizontally. Really, the sky's the limit. You can do so much with these. Now my garland ended up being a little longer than I needed, so I'm just going to snip off the extra, bend that end down there, and have a little piece for another project another day. And I am going to take my end here with my wire cutters and just bend those edges over, because there are some thick wires in there. I don't want anybody to get cut, poked, or anything on those. Now I had this little tea towel, it had this little embroidered willow tree. It says bless this home, and I'm just going to fold this nice and thin. I'm going to add it to my top rung of my little ladder here and let it hang over. I absolutely love these little ladders. They are so easy and fun to make, and like I said, you can decorate these in so many different ways. Guys, leave me a comment. Let me know how you would decorate yours. I'd love to hear your ideas. For this next DIY, I'm going to use a pack of these little rubber bands. These are just rubber bands from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to pick a couple different fabrics here. This is a really great project to use up scrap fabric with. We're going to make a little rag garland wreath to go around a candle, and the candle I'm using is a little bigger, so as you can see, there's multiple sizes of these rubber bands in this pack, and I'm going to go with the larger ones. It really depends on the size of the candle you want to put around. As you can see, this is my candle, and this is a cranberry candle. I wish you guys could smell how good this thing smells, but I just want to make sure that my rubber bands would fit around there. And I'm going to use 3 of these because these are Dollar Tree rubber bands. I wanted to reinforce them a little bit, so just in case one would break, I had a couple more in there to ensure that my little rag garland would still be intact. Like I said, you could use hair ties even too. And I'm going to take my fabric. I'm choosing this homespun dark blue and cream, and I'm using some scraps of my drop cloth, just a painter's drop cloth that I had. These were just little bits and pieces that were left over from other projects, and I'm going to rip. And with the drop cloth, I ended up having to cut because it just did not want to rip into little strips, and about 8 inches I cut these pieces. And from there, I'm just going to start tying these right to my rubber bands. And I started off, I was originally going to do just alternate between the 2 different fabrics, but I ended up deciding I wanted more of the homespun than the drop cloth, so I ended up tying 2 pieces of the homespun to 1 piece of the drop cloth. But you could really add as many different types of fabric as you wanted to on this. Like I said, this is a really, really great project to use up some of those scrap fabric with. if you guys are enjoying this video so far, be sure to drop down and hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, I would love it if you would consider hitting that subscribe button and joining me again in the future. I would absolutely love to have you come craft with me again. And I'm sure you've maybe seen that YouTube now has this feature called Hype, that if you hit it, it just lets YouTube know that you enjoyed the video so that they know to share it with more people, and it really helps my channel out. It's completely free. So if you enjoy it, I hope you'll also consider hitting that button as well. So just keep tying your fabric all around your rubber bands. And you want to make sure when you're doing this, be sure to push these down close, nice and close together, because when these do stretch out to go over your candle, it will separate a little bit. So you want to make sure that your fabric's nice and full on these so that there's no gaps or you don't see your hair tie or your rubber bands or whatever you use as your base showing through. So as you can see, you pull it apart, you can see little bits, and if you have it nice and full, you won't see those. So as I get here towards the end in particular, that's where I'll start pushing. So it may look like it's full, but I'll just push that down a little more and you'll find there's a little bit more room, and I'll keep doing that until there's just no more room left. This is a super simple, easy project. Great way to dress up a little candle, give it a nice little rustic primitive touch, and use up some scrap fabric. So you can see here, just when you think it looks full, if you push it, there's just a little bit more space. We can add one more piece of fabric in there. So once I have it all tied on, I'm just going to kind of lay it out and just kind of fluff my pieces out, see if I have any extra long stragglers. I didn't precisely measure these each and every piece. I just kind of laid them on top of each other and eyeballed it. So I have a couple pieces that are maybe a little longer than others. I'm just going to trim it up, even it up, pull off any of those extra little strings that like to hang off the homespun when you rip it. Make sure all my little knots are facing out the right way, and then just I'll pop it right on my candle here. Just fluff it out. Get all your fabric nice and even, headed the right direction. And that's all there is to it. So simple, so rustic, so cute. For this DIY, I'm going to be using just one of these little metal sifters from the Dollar Tree and a little 6-inch grapevine wreath form. Now on my little sifter here, I don't want the handle. So I'm going to take my wire cutters, and I'm not going to lie, this took a little bit of maneuvering, a little bit of strength, and I'm going to try to cut through these double wires right below, right where the two wires kind of come together. And I had to kind of turn it over a couple times and push and then start wiggling that handle. It took a little bit, but I got there. I finally got it off there. And then I'm going to start at the top, and I'm going to push those prongs up into the grapevine wreath, and then add the bottom ones in as well, and just situate that sifter right in the center of that little wreath form. It fits really, really nice in this little 6-inch wreath form. Just kind of adjust it around, squeeze my grapevine wreath down on there so that those prongs are in there nice and good. that's kind of what it's looking like. Now, the silver of these sifters, it was just too bright, too shiny, too new looking for me. So I'm going with my, you guessed it, Waverly Antique Wax, my one-stop shop, my go-to. And I'm just going to take and I'm going to go over top of this sifter with this antique wax. As you can see, you just go over it lightly and it just dulls down that silver, just gives it a little bit of that aged, kind of rusted look. Perfect for what I'm going for. I don't like it looking brand new and shiny. I like it looking old and dingy. And I'm going to go in here and add a little bit of hot glue and down into this wreath right where those prongs were, just to give it a little extra reinforcement. It was in there pretty good, but just as a double method, make sure that it was not going to go anywhere. Now I had this little pitberry candle ring and I wanted to use that to go around, but it wasn't quite wide enough. So I just took my wire cutters and I clipped that candle ring open there. And right there you can see that's the end of the little wire. I wanted to wrap that around so my pitberries didn't start coming off the end. And that way I can open it up and I can fit it around the inside of this wreath form a little better. So I'm going to take the end and I'm just going to push it down in through that grapevine, kind of stick it down in there, make sure it's stuck down in there nice and good. And then I'm just going to start moving around my berries until they fit around there, until it looks good to me. And then I'm going to use my little rusty wire here. I get this off of Amazon. I'll leave links in my description box down below as always. And I'm just going to use that to secure it to the grapevine wreath. I'm going to put a piece here, one on the other side, and then one at the bottom. I'll secure it at 3 different points. That way, this candle ring's not going to go anywhere. And with the rusty wire, it blends right in. You don't even see it. Adjust my berries a little bit. Now I have these little tea light candles and I know what you're saying, Sarah, that is a really orange candle. It is, but we're going to fix that. We're going to turn this little orange tea light candle into some little grubby candles. I actually have a whole box of these orange. I think they were Halloween ones and they're really cute candles, but yeah, a little too orange. So I'm going to go in with my Waverly Antique Wax to start with, and I'm just going to start dabbing it. And I literally mean dabbing, just really rough. I don't want it smooth. I'm just dabbing it all over this candle, all over the sides and all over the front, even a little bit on the little faux flame in the center. Let that dry. While that is drying, I'm going to take this little piece of homespun fabric here and I'm going to just slide that right through my grapevine wreath, and I'm actually going to put it right through the top prongs of the sifter, where that wire originally, where I cut it off. I'm just going to pop it right through those prongs around the grapevine wreath. I probably should have done this before I put the pit berries on, but you know, hindsight's 2020, right? But it's okay. I got it through there. Just add it through those 2 metal prongs around that grapevine wreath, and I'm going to tie it here at the top so that it doesn't slide around, and then tie it in a loop at the top, so that will be our hanger for our little wreath here. Now I'm going to take some Spanish moss here and I'm just going to kind of make almost like a little nest. I'm going to make it a little nest so I can fit it right in that sifter. That's what our candle will sit in, and I'm going to want this to go about halfway or so up the sifter in the front. That'll give us a nice little place to pop our candle in. So once I get my little nest made, I'm going to add some hot glue around the base of the sifter, around my little grapevine wreath, and then add this in. It's going to stick out the back here, and I'll trim all that excess off hanging off here at the end. Just want to glue that grapevine, or shoot, not grapevine. I want to glue all of that Spanish moss down in there. I'm going to push it down so it's not sticking up too high in the front. You want to see it, but you don't want to see it too much. Does that make sense? Watch your fingers. It's so easy to burn when you're working with that Spanish moss. It'll just poke right through. I don't know how many times I've glued Spanish moss to my fingertips. So once that's done, I'll set that aside. Let's go back to these candles. I'm actually going to do a couple at a time here. And once that first round of my antique wax is dry, I'm going to go in a second time and dab it on a second coat of that. And that's really going to darken that up. So I just put the second coat on the one, and the other one just has the one, so you can really see the difference that second coat makes. It really, really darkens it up, really starts to make it look like that grubby candle look. While my antique wax is wet, that second coat, I'm just going to take some ground cinnamon, and I'm just going to lightly sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon right on top of that antique wax. I'm not going to completely cover it, just little sprinkling, little smattering to mix in with that wax. This is just an alternative way of grunging without breaking out the Mod Podge. Especially with these little candles, because they kind of have a little rougher texture anyway. So it works really well, and I think they turn out so cute. So here's what they look like dry. See? A grubby little candle. And I'm just going to pop that right down in a little nest of Spanish moss you made there. And there it is. I think these are so cute. These look adorable hanging in a kitchen, really anywhere. This DIY, I'm going to be using another one of these Dollar Tree sifters, and we're going to decorate it a different way. This is going to be a little more, maybe a little more spring vibes with this one. And I'm going to start off by going with my antique wax and dulling down that silver finish, just like I did with the first one, just to give it a little more antique, rusted, kind of aged look to that metal, especially the screen. That's the part you'll see the most on this one. Now, while that wax is drying, we're going to leave the handle on this one this time. We don't have to fight that one off. And going with my thicker jute twine from Walmart, I'm just going to start hot gluing and wrapping that twine all the way around that plastic handle. I'm going to make sure it's nice and tight. I don't want to see any of that handle sticking out anywhere. Just glue and wrap, glue and wrap. Now up here, when I get to the top where the little hook is, the little handle hook, I'm going to wrap around it, but I'm not going to completely cover that hook quite yet. I'm going to wrap about halfway up, and then I'm going to cut off enough of twine that I can continue wrapping the rest of the way. Then I'm going to take my twine and I'm going to feed it right through that opening. And I want to tie it down in a knot right at the top of the handle. And then tie it in a loop at the top. This is going to be our way to hang our little sifter here. And I'm just going to add a little bit of hot glue to this knot, and when I trim down these little tails that are sticking out, and then taking little edges that are left and tucking down in that glue and that knot, it will hide any of those little edges and make sure that knot stays put. Sometimes when you cut those down real tight or down real small, the knot can sometimes slip a little bit, and this way ensures it's nice, neat, and doesn't come undone. And once I have that added, then I can keep finishing wrapping my handle all the way up, all the way to the base of the hanger. And it hides where it was tied on, and it makes it just look nice, neat, and finished. Now, Dollar Tree has these really, really pretty eucalyptus hanging greenery this year. Dollar Tree's killing it this year with some of their florals. If you haven't seen some of their spring florals they're putting out, go check them out because they really do have some very pretty. They have like a almost draping lavender, some really, really cute ones. For sure, you'll want to grab some. But I'm going to take one of these hanging eucalyptus stems from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to cut off 3 of the hanging stems. We won't even need the whole stem for this. We'll only have 1 left over for a project another day. And before I'm going to use some green floral wire to attach these to it. And I started to try to wire it as I was putting it on. And I thought, you know what? It might be easier to go in and add my floral wire, then add the greenery. That way I already have the wire in there. It fits right through these little holes in the sifter. And I'm just going to take and add about 4 pieces of floral wire just around the sifter. And I want to leave the pieces relatively long because I will be adding multiple layers of greenery to this as I go around. Just put it right through the holes of that sifter, give it a twist, and leave your tails long. So you can see that's where we will put our greenery through to hold it to this, because yes, I'm wrapping it in greenery if I didn't say that. So I'm going to take the stem of the first one. I'm going to pop it through the little prongs at the top, add my greenery down into that first floral stem, and give it a twist. Now this longer stem here, I'm just going to bend it around, and I'll come around through here in just a little bit and take care of those. But I'm going to wrap this greenery around, add it into my next wire, give it a twist, just 1 twist. You want to leave it open for more here. So with the second piece, I'm going to overlap it with the first just slightly. So I'll put the end of the first and the start of the second and that next piece of wire, and then keep wiring it right around my little sifter. Now this top stem, the one I said I'd come back to, I'm going to take and I'm just going to start wrapping it a couple times around this little center prong here that goes up to the handle. I'm just going to wrap that around 2 or 3 times and then snip off that excess. Just to give it a little extra security, holds it there, kind of covers a little bit of that wire prong too. Now my third, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to overlap once again. You can kind of see where it doesn't look quite as full from the first two. That's where I'm going to add it in. I'm going to go through, pop it back through these little wires. And this time I'm going to give them a couple twists and tuck them down because this will be the last round of greenery that I'll be putting in them. I absolutely love how this turns out. It's so spring-like. It's just, when I saw look at the snow on the ground out the window here as I'm crafting this, and this pretty green, it's just making me just really ache for spring to arrive to see all the green and the flowers. I cannot wait. So now here, this last long stem from this last one, I'm going to bring it up and around, and I'm going to put it through that other prong at the top, opposite the one that I wrapped the first tail around. So I'm going to put this one around the other side, wrap it around a few times, and trim off the excess. Just kind of adjust your greenery how you want it. Look how cute, look how springy. We'll save that other little sprig for another project. Now once again, I'm going to go in with my Spanish moss just like we did on the other one, make a little nest and hot glue that right down into it just like we did on that first one. Except be super careful in this one. The other one had the grapevine wreath to kind of take a little bit of that hot glue. This one you're going right around the edge of that sifter a little bit, and it's really easy to kind of for that hot glue to sneak through some of that little mesh of the sifter and get your fingers. Can you guess how I know that? And just trim off the excess and then take another one of your little grubby candles, pop right down in there, and now we have an adorable little spring sifter. And for this last DIY, we're going to be using one of these Dollar Tree potato mashers. And just like with the sifters, it's a little too bright and shiny, a little too new looking for me. So I'm going to go with my antique wax, and I'm going to just start by dabbing it on here, just dulling down that shiny finish a little bit to start with. But I'm not going to be done here. This is just the first step. I started doing this and I decided, you know what, I just want to full on do a little grunging with this one a little bit on this texture, make it look kind of rusty. So I'm taking my ground cinnamon and I'm going to dump it on this wet wax to start with. And now while that's drying, I'm going to let the antique wax with the cinnamon on it, I'm just going to give it a little bit of time to dry on there. And while that's doing that, I'm going to make a little handle just like I did with this last sifter. And I'm going to wrap this little black plastic handle in the twine exactly like I did with the other sifter, just to hide that black plastic. We don't want to see any of that shining through. Now, once I had my handle wrapped and I let that wax and stuff dry just a little bit, I'm going in with my matte finished Mod Podge. And I'm going to dab my Mod Podge all over this, all over that cinnamon, all over that antique wax. I'm going to give it a pretty generous little coat here, and then I'm going to add another layer of cinnamon down in that Mod Podge. Then I'm going to go back over after it sets I'll give it a couple minutes to sit and dry for just a few, not very long. And then I'm going to take and go over it with the Mod Podge one more time. And I'm dabbing. I'm not swiping my brush. I'm dabbing. And I'm using a pretty generous amount of Mod Podge on this project. It took it a little while to dry. Now, while this was drying, my Mod Podge was not completely dry when I started doing this, but I figured it would be okay because any of the wet Mod Podge on the bottom would just help my Spanish moss stick. So I'm making another little nest out of my Spanish moss and adding a little hot glue and putting it right down here on the bottom of this potato masher. And like I said, any of the Mod Podge that was still damp on the bottom will just help adhere that moss right to the masher. Just press it down, trim it up. Spanish moss likes to get a little wild. So you can see some of my Mod Podge on my handle of it's not completely dry yet. Once again, just watch your little fingers on these where the little holes are in the bottom and that hot glue can pop through really easy. So once my Mod Podge is dry and my Spanish moss is on, I'm going to add another little grubby candle right to the base there. And to finish it off, I'm just going to take a strip of my dark navy blue and dark cream homespun fabric, and I'm just going to tie a little bow right to the bottom of this handle. Trim up my tails. I'm going to leave my tails a little bit long, but not dragging long. I don't want them touching the table. So this as a handle has the option to sit or hang, maybe on a peg shelf in your kitchen or something. And I think it turns out so rustic and so sweet. And you can really see that finish now that it's dried, gives it that nice, pretty faux rust look and smells like cinnamon. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, leave me a comment. Let me know which of today's projects was your favorite, or if you think you might try one. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to hit that like button. I hope you'll consider subscribing. Don't forget to follow me on socials. And until next time, God bless and happy crafting.